All right, folks, we're back in the studio again for another podcast with Joe Brady. Joe, we were hoping to get into and dive into some things folks can get ready for the spring. Obviously, with the winter, cold, snow, no matter where you live, you're not as excited to go exercise. You know, there's ways to exercise in your house. There's way to exercise doing small little chores in and around your house and whatnot. But what are some good ways that people can start looking at getting exercise and preparing for the springtime once it warms up?
Again, my background's in Chinese medicine, and so one of the traditions they have is the idea of spring cleaning. And so we're heading into the Year of the Tiger, and I'm hoping that the energy in Year of the Tiger is better because the last couple of years has been terrible. And I'm thinking that maybe the Cincinnati Bengals being in the Super Bowl should be an auspicious sign for Year of the Tiger. But one of the things they start with in the Chinese New Year is cleaning the house, spring cleaning. And it's particularly good for those days when you're kind of cooped up and the weather's not cooperating because it's not full blown spring yet. But at the same time, it not only gets you some physical activity, which is more physical activity than you think, especially if you do like my mother did and get down on your hands and knees and scrub that floor. But at the same time, it gets you a clean house. And it's a whole lot less stressful if you can kind of get rid of the clutter from the last year, both the clutter in the house and also the clutter in your head. This last 2 years has been a rough 2 years on people, and it's affected their moods in such a way that they need to clear out some of the clutter. So that's a place to begin. And then every little bit that you get on top of that is gravy. And it makes a big difference in your susceptibility to disease. We were talking a little bit about, they don't make a big deal out of this because I guess people feel like it's blaming the victim. But 90% of all the people that died from COVID were obese. And every little bit of weight that you carry around is that much more that your body's got to deal with when you're sick. People don't realize this, but 1 pound of fat, it represents 2,000 miles worth of fine blood vessels and capillaries that your body has to pump blood through and your lungs have to supply oxygen to keep that fat alive and keep it healthy. That's a lot of work. And especially if you're talking about somebody that's carrying 40 pounds, 50 pounds of extra weight on them, that's so hard on your heart and it's so hard on your lungs. We had one gentleman here at Denver Health, he went over 400 pounds and got COVID, landed in the hospital. At that weight, they didn't have a choice but to put him on a ventilator because there's no way he could breathe without it. And he kicked the COVID fairly quickly in that his fever went down and it shed the virus quickly. Anyway, but every time they tried to take him off the ventilator, he was still too heavy. And there's no way his damaged lungs could supply oxygen to all that weight. And so then they'd end up having to put him back on the ventilator again. He ended up spending 4 months on a ventilator. 3.5 of those months were not because of COVID, but strictly because of the weight he was carrying. And then in that length of time, he managed to, laying in the hospital, not eating real food, managed to lose 100 pounds. And that was enough where he had lost enough weight to where when they took him off the ventilator, he could begin to breathe on his own again. Now is a great opportunity. When we're in the coldest part of the year, your body naturally wants to hang on to weight in that it's just physically easier to keep a larger mass warmer than a smaller mass. And so even if you don't put on fat, your body's going to put on water weight. The average person gains about 10 pounds over the Christmas holidays. And then you add some Christmas cookies on there on top of it and you're off to the races. But as we head into spring and the weather gets warmer, it's naturally easier for your body to keep a smaller mass cooler than a larger mass. And so it wants to lose the extra weight. And it'll dump the extra water weight. And it'll try to get some of the weight off. In which case, if you're going to try any kind of control your diet kind of thing, that's the best time to do it. Because then your own physiology is going to help you. to get some of that weight off. And also, as we head into the warmer weather, people are more active and they take more walks. And it's just a good time to start thinking about that sort of thing, and to try to work on keeping yourself healthy. Make it one of your New Year's resolutions. But don't do it like a New Year's resolution where it's all or nothing. And if you don't do it perfectly, then you give up on it. It's a process. Every meal that you eat, every walk that you take or don't take is an opportunity for profit or loss. That's from one of the Chinese medical classics. And so if you miss one walk, take the next one. I've been through a busy time this week. Part of my New Year's resolution was to take the dog out for a walk first thing every morning. She's just a little chihuahua, so she doesn't really need the exercise. I'm the one that needs the exercise.
Who?
Actually, I walk her. She's too little to impose her will too much through a leash. But she's an excuse for me to get out of the house each morning. This last week, I've been like really busy and unable to do that. So rather than saying, oh, well, I failed, I took her for a walk in the afternoon. I took her for an extra walk that night. And you make it up. No big deal. Behaviorally, people need to give themselves permission for that day they mess up and to go ahead and make up for it the next day.
So how do you prepare for the spring? So what are some things that you try to do knowing that the springtime is coming and you want to be more active? And New Year's resolution's great. Most people forget what it is by March.
Well, again, it helps to revolve around something concrete. And so one thing is that with all the Tai Chi that I teach, I'm kind of obligated to do a certain amount. But as we head into spring, I want to do more stuff outside. I mean, we've been forced to kind of do stuff online, which is better than nothing. But still having to get up and get dressed and get in the car and go to the class location, walk across the park, find a class, that still adds up to a lot more than you're doing at home. And so that's one of my goals. Another one is, again, this idea of I'm not the type to exercise just for the sake of exercise. I have to have a purpose. And so my wife wanted to redo the kitchen. So now I'm getting a whole lot of extra Tai Chi practice, waxing on and waxing off as I sand down the plaster on the wall in the kitchen so I get it ready for painting. At least that way I'm getting the physical activity. And at the same time, hopefully when it's all said and done, I'll have a freshly painted kitchen on top of it.
So one of the things that I really like that you're talking about that really kind of pertains to a lot of our folks is you don't have to have a gym membership. No. You don't have to go join a fancy golf course. You don't have to go to the tennis club. If you have a pet or an animal, take your dog for two walks a day, right? One in the morning, one in the afternoon. Another thing that I really like, I used to have a neighbor who used to live next to me, was late 70s. And every time I drove out from work and came back, I always see him walking to the mailbox. And one day I finally pulled over. I was like, Steve, the mail doesn't come until 4:00. He says, listen, I just need to get out of the house and away from my wife. So I tell her I'm going to the mailbox because I'm waiting for something. And then I'll walk a couple laps around, the little cul-de-sac. So, a lot of things that we're talking about really aren't difficult. You can get out of the house, walk to your mailbox. You can go again, second time in the afternoon to do that. Another thing that I find very interesting, something we've been hearing about lately, some of the local animal shelters will let you go to the animal shelter and they will have you have one of the dogs and you can walk one of the dogs around their properties. And that is literally a very easy volunteering job. When I remember seeing something on the news where this guy was talking about how he walks, all 16 different dogs and, he gets 16 walks a day, he says, and he's felt better than ever. And these are all very simple things. Now, let's say somebody wants to take it up a notch, right? Let's say someone, is really wanting to lose the extra winter weight. What is your recommendation? 2-3 times a week at the gym?
I got a quiz for you.
Yeah.
You ready for a quiz?
Pop quiz.
I teach at the university. I'm used to giving out quizzes. So you got two guys that want to get in shape. And they both determined that they're going to walk around City Park Lake. The one guy takes a leisurely stroll around City Park Lake. Takes him about an hour to get around the lake. Second guy figures, I'm going to run as fast as I can and get this over with because I hate this crap. And so he runs around the lake as quickly as he can. He gets done in 15 minutes. Two questions. One, which one gets more cardiovascular benefit?
It takes an hour.
No. They're exactly the same.
Okay.
For cardiovascular benefit.
Okay.
The cardiovascular benefit is your body weight times the distance that you move it.
Sure.
Doesn't matter how quickly you do it.
Yeah.
The one who's running does develop more wind. And so their lungs are working more because it's got to deliver the oxygen faster.
Okay.
Which of the two loses more weight?
I'm going to stick with one.
The one who takes a leisurely stroll?
Yes.
You got it.
That was my first. That's what was
I don't
my
know. What do you think? That's about a B on the quiz?
50-50. Well, C minus.
Yeah. What people don't realize is for the first 20 minutes that you're exercising, your body's just burning the sugars that are in your blood and in your muscles. And it takes about 20 minutes to burn that off, which is easier to burn. It's harder for your body to burn fat. And so it's going to wait until all the sugar's out of your system before it starts dipping into fat cells. In which case, if the objective is to lose weight, then you're better to go for a longer period of time, but at a more leisurely pace so that you're not killing yourself over that time. Again, there's value to running around the lake as quickly as you can, but it's not losing weight and it's not cardiovascular benefit. Again, you would improve your wind capacity, your ability, your oxygen to deliver, your lungs to deliver oxygen quickly. But usually that's not. I had one exercise physiologist to put it this way. It's sort of like you've been given a job to clear 400 pounds of lard out of the bed of a pickup truck. That's the fat. And then some moron put 400 boxes of Girl Scout cookies on top of the lard. And before you can get to the lard, you got to remove all the Girl Scout cookies. Same thing with physical activity. If people's goal is to lose weight, which coming into springtime, that's a lot of people's goals, and to go ahead and pick something that you can enjoy over a period of time. I've had some of my patients with the bad weather here in Colorado and COVID and people being isolated, whatever. I can't exercise. I can't get to the gym. What do I do? Get out your dancing shoes. Come on, you can go on YouTube now. I found a 1963 tape of a show of the Grateful Dead with Janis Joplin. Put on your blue suede shoes and dance around the house while you're picking up the odds and ends and picking up the laundry or whatever. You can still be active and have fun with it. And it's a great stress reliever as well. And everybody's gotten, typically what they find in gerontology research is if you pick the music that you were listening to when you were about 18, 19, 20 years old, it still will drive a spark in your step. They did one experiment where they took people, older adults, and they moved them to a resort where everything in the resort was from when they were 18, 19, and 20. So all the music they could listen to was Elvis Presley and Bo Diddley, and the newspapers were from that time. And after just 3 days at that resort, people tested 20 years younger on biomarker of aging tests. And so don't be afraid to get out your dancing shoes and put on some records and have some fun with it.
So one of the other things, I'm sure you remember this, back in the 90s, they used to do on PBS Sit and Fit.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Sure.
Yeah. So it's a very, easy to follow program. It's just a chair. You do things sitting in the chair. You do things standing up. And this is something that stuck with me growing up, as a kid, watching my grandma do it and seeing that it's such a very easy thing that you can do. And we've turned into this idea where you work in an office. You're literally sitting at your desk all day. Now we have stand-up desks so we can stand up. But one of the things that we're bringing to our population of our customers and patients is we're going to be doing chair yoga. So essentially, the whole premise is you have a chair at home or you have a chair at your office if you're still working. You can do this form of chair yoga, which works on some flexibility, some light exercise, breathing technique, and also gets you stretched and gives you just a better well-being, right? So I think the premise of what we're talking about, Joe, is there's many ways to stay active, and there's much more many ways to get fit than just needing to spend money on a gym membership. And I think one of the things I'd like for you to mention is you have a lot of free content on your website, and you have a lot of Zoom classes that are free that you guys will, do the Zoom classes. It's all free, which, you guys have your own YouTube channel.
Yes.
Yep.
And the Zoom Tai Chi classes have actually turned out to be more successful than we ever thought they were going to be. I mean, we did it really just to be a stopgap while the COVID was going on. And what we found is for a lot of people, they were really interested in learning Tai Chi, but feeling like awkward and like, I don't know this. And we're a little bit shy about actually showing up to a class. And by doing it online, they don't even have to turn their camera on. Nobody can see what they're doing or not. And it's encouraged a lot more people to go ahead and work on it without the pressure of how you look. And I found in one study they did with regular fitness classes is there was a lot of your classic aerobics instructors that are doing more and more of that. Look for, some classes in your neighborhood that are online. And what they find is that, when you had the traditional gym kind of membership thing, unless somebody looked good in a leotard, and I don't know about you, Constantine, but I don't look so good in a leotard no more. Unless you look good in a leotard, they would be shy about going to the gym. Where doing it online has given people the freedom to go ahead and do it and not have to be embarrassed about maybe they're not in the greatest shape. And that allows them to get in better shape. On our website, taichidenver.com, there's links there where you can get links to we've actually gotten quite a few folks off of the OxiMed stuff that are taking it, and give us an opportunity to go over the exercises, give us an opportunity to go over some breathing exercises, and also gives a little bit of an opportunity to people have some kind of social interaction with other people.
Yeah.
Even though it's quite limited in what it is.
Well, I think you mentioned an interesting topic, longevity and aging slower. Well, exercise is certainly one way. Losing some weight is a better way. But socializing. Yeah. Socializing is a huge way. One of the beautiful things that I've heard feedback from customers of ours is, I watched that Joe Brady guy and his Tai Chi class, and at first I thought it was some funny stuff, but I tell you what, he says it was pretty good exercise and we enjoy it. He says, me and my wife and our friends who live across the coast get in on the Zoom at the same time when we've watched it and we enjoy it. And so, 3 things that I want to remind people: clean your house, spring clean, right? Do some sort of home improvement projects if you can. 2, if you have an animal, walk your animal. If you don't have an animal, think about adopting a dog as a way of you, 1, having someone to socialize with, and 1, a reason to exercise. And 3, another big thing is to socialize. Go and check out a lot of these, free things you can do, like your Tai Chi. Certainly we hope our chair yoga and our yoga will be something folks can look into. Most importantly, folks that are on oxygen and that have tanks, we really help people be more active. And this is a good conversation for people who are shy and a little intimidated to go out with a tank and they can't do as much. A portable concentrator definitely helps people who are on oxygen, and a portable concentrator can help somebody, minimize a big old tank down to something that's manageable. And I know that your practice and your teachings in Tai Chi are really help folks that are maybe not as mobile, or maybe folks that need oxygen and use oxygen, or people who just maybe don't move as quick as they used to. So I think part of the premise and what we'll release to people in the post is, different ways we can help people stay active and
to reframe it all, in that we're very good in Western civilization and Western biomedicine at defining pathogenesis, how people get sick. That's most of our research. A new concept in medicine is called salutogenesis, in that it's not a question of being fit or not fit. It's a process, just like getting sicker is a process. Getting healthier is a process. You start with where you are, and every little bit that you move the dial toward healthier, with a little bit healthier diet and a little bit more exercise, is moving you toward aging more slowly, and entropy doesn't catch up to you as quickly. Everything that you don't do, every walk that you don't take, every good meal that you don't eat and eat crap instead, moves you little by little by little toward aging and toward illness and toward pathogenesis. So people need to start thinking about it as a process, as a path. And every day you're either moving in one direction or you're moving in the other. In gerontology, they say every day you're either growing stronger or you're growing older. Take your pick.